Welcome friends to another Wheel of Time video. Today we examine a battle between two of the Forsaken, fallen Aes Sedai who serve the Dark One, and the Dragon Reborn, Randall Thor, to show the dragon's abilities early in his reign and how they are scaled up when he is aided by the sword Callandor. Spoilers through and including the third book in the series throughout. Let's get straight into it. Rand entered the Heart of Stone and saw the fabled blade Callandor floating in mid-air, hilt down. A voice urged him to take it. It belonged to one of the Forsaken, Belial, who produces his own sword, and its blade is made of black fire. Rand channels side in, and he feels the sweetness of the taint within it, and then makes his own sword, a heron-marked blade of red flame. Blade of black fire met blade of red in showers of sparks, roars like white-hot metal shattering. Then Rand returns to a guard stance. Rand sees the black sword as a heron-marked blade, making the Forsaken a true blade master, unlike Rand who is still learning. Belial mocks Rand and gives him time to take Callandor. Rand is filled with doubt that he is the Dragon Reborn, as only the dragon can take the blade. The blades meet and Rand is driven back. Another attack nearly takes his head, but he throws himself aside with no elegance and stays alive. Belial then continued to drive him back and again prompts Rand to take up Callandor. Moiraine arrives and says no, and a bar of white-hot fire, hotter than the sun, shot from the Aes Sedai's hands, and the Forsaken for a moment was motes, that even then faded to nothing. Moiraine then prompts Rand to take the sword, before black lightning lifts her and throws her aside. Rand sees from within a deep shadow, eyes of fire, Balsamon. He hung above the floor, puts forth his hand, and Rand goes for Callandor. The Forsaken hits him, trying to pull a part of him away. Rand feels his insides will be taken off his body, but his hand closes on Callandor. The sword lets him draw on the one power without limit. The blade shone, and its form was lost within the light. Rand tried to fight the flow that came through, and it almost devoured him. He turned to face Balsamon. The tearing on his body ended, and the Forsaken vanished. Rand felt Balsamon had bent something. Rand reached out through the sword and made a door, perhaps doing something similar to what Balsamon had done, and says, "I am the hunter now." This sword is a male Tel'aran'rhiod, and as you may have figured out, it allows Rand access to more one power safely than he otherwise would be able to access. It has no buffer for how much power is drawn, so it can reach any amount. Rand emerges into the Stone of Tyr, but it's different. He has entered, but does not know this, the world of dreams. A blazing shaft comes for him. With instinct, he puts flow from Sidin into Callandor. The Forsaken's light strikes a blade and is parted on its edge, and streams past Rand and strikes redstone columns behind him. The building rumbled, and the pillars scattered dust and fragments of stone. Rand hears a snarl, and the blazing shafts vanished. Rand swung Callandor at something in front of him, and white light blazed ahead and sheared through the redstone column that hid the snarl. He heard Balsamon running and went after him. The archway that allowed you out of the heart collapsed. Rand threw power at it and cleared the way. And Myrddraal and Trollocs leapt out of thin air, huge bestial shapes and eyeless faces, distorted with a rage to kill, in hundreds. So they jammed the hall before him, and behind, scythe-like swords and blades of deadly black sought his blood. He turned them to vapour, then the air around him became choking soot, but he made it fresh again. Flame rose from the floor and all around him, burning the tapestries and rugs. Rand made them flat, making them only a red glaze on the floor. Then reality around him unravelled. Even himself, his own body, he was being pushed into a place where nothing existed, Callandor blazed, and it sealed the hole that was pulling him away, and things became solid around him again. The sword blazed in his hand, and Rand's control of its power was on a knife's edge. He runs after Balsamon, who tries to turn reality against Rand again, but each time he instinctively, and with some chance, manages to counter each of them. But they continue, and more still. He was encased within solid rock. The ground pulled at him. All weight vanished, so he spun in midair. Mouths tried to rip his mind from his body. He escaped these traps and ran on, and was led to the heart of stone. Seeing what he faced, Balsamon cried out aid to the Dark One, his master, and the darkness around him became so black the light was soaked up from Callandor. Rand shouted. Callandor spun in his hands. Its light rolled the darkness back, severed the steel-black lines around Balsamon, and Balsamon convulsed. Rand then shoved the sword into the Forsaken's body, which sagged. The shadows faded. I believe the lines that were tied to Balsamon were the Dark One feeding him some of his power. Rand was then out of the world of dreams and in the real heart of stone. The Forsaken was at his feet, a hole burned in his chest, and Rand thinks he has killed the Dark One, though he hasn't, which he doesn't know, but this gives him confidence to declare who he is. I am Rand al'Thor, he called, so his voice rang through the chamber. I am the Dragon Reborn. Callandor shone in his grasp. One by one, veiled men and helmeted, they knelt to him, crying, "The dragon is reborn! The dragon is reborn!" Now, friends, I turn this over to you. What do you think of this conflict and the powers it shows that Rand has? Should Balsamon have been so easily defeated? Have you wielded Callandor in the Stone of Tyr? Comment down below.